Now, this essence which is in us, which is called Sat, has also been defined by the Vedas or the Upanishads as Satchidananda. Satchidananda means Sat, Chit and Ananda. Sat meaning we discussed. I wouldn't say we completely discussed Sat, but we did a little bit. Because you can't discuss Sat, you can only experience it. Then, Chit, it is of the nature of consciousness. It's not just a material thing, like a padartha. Sat is Chit, which means it is conscious. Prajnanam Brahma, it's conscious. Then, what is its quality? That quality which we as human beings can know, and that is Ananda, happiness. Although that happiness is defined as Anantam Anandam Brahma, that Ananda which has no Anta. Steeped in that Ananda, Ananda Padmanabha Swami sleeps. Ananta Sayanam, endless sleep. Beautiful symbol. No? Also because he's in Trivandrum, it's good to sleep. So, this is the essence of the whole teaching. Now, Sat and Chit, it's not so easy to understand. But Ananda, we can understand. So I feel that you should start working from Ananda towards Chit and then Sat. The reverse direction. So why go in the reverse direction? Because some of these matters can be found only if you turn around the logical order. There is the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It's called Purushottama Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme Person. It begins by describing a tree which is upside down. Urdho moolam mathasyakham asvatham brahuravyayam chandamsi yasya parnani astam vedasa vedavit. That means there is an upside down Ashwatha tree. Ashwatha is people, whose roots are up above and branches. We have not seen any such tree. For us, trees have roots down and branches above. Here is a tree whose roots are up and branches below. Which means, put your logic on its head. Some of these things cannot be discovered by linear logic. That this truth which you are describing, if it is there, then the linear logic applies. I have to go there. What happens if it is everywhere? How do I go? I can't go. Right? Isha Vashyamidam Sarvam, which pervades everything here. In that case, what is the way? To stop all moving. To stop all reaching out. To let go. Tena tyaktena bhunjita. To let go and rejoice, which is not sleep, okay? Okay, I let go and rejoice. Finished. All satsang is over. So, this process of looking, trying to find the Sat is easier understood when you think about the concept of Ananda, which we all try to get everywhere in the world. Why do we go here? Because I'll be happy there. Why do I do this? Because I'll get happiness there. Why do I drown myself in 5 pegs of alcohol? Because I think I'll be very happy there. Yeah, you are, because the central nervous system is completely paralyzed. For some time you don't know where you are, so that's fine. But then you are so dependent that you go back again and again. But we have a drink which is very nice. You don't have to buy it from the shop. It's not imported single malt. It's not the best Italian wine. It's much more than that. It's the full glass which is inside us, which we can drink if we want to. So, people usually ask this question, how can I touch that, because it's so many distractions of my mind, how can I get over it? This is why when you hear a person who has touched it talking to you, then you get this feeling, perhaps there must be something in it. So he's enjoying something, so can we also enjoy it? That's how it starts. And sometimes when there is a magnet and there's a little iron piece close by, a little bit of magnetism goes there, right? But then this is an intelligent little iron piece. It sits for some time and then gets out. We should be intelligent, I'm not saying it shouldn't be. But that which we look for is beyond even the ken of our ordinary intelligence. We have to put our normal logic on its head. Urdhva The upside down tree with its roots above and branches below also means the human system. It also means the human being. Where is the controlling center for the whole body? Everybody says, very happily says. So this is the root, right? And these are all the branches down below. When you switch on and switch off here, then things start working here. And one thing goes wrong, you lose your memory. It's not a bad thing. Unfortunately, you lose all memories. It's good to lose bad memories and have nice memories. But brain injury, the whole thing is gone. So what is important here? So this is the root. So from the yogic point of view, work starts on the tree, the Sahasrara, whose lowest leaf is the Muladhara. You can't directly understand the Sahasrara, so you start studying the little leaves. Chandamsi yasya paranani, when you understand these little leaves, yastam Ved, then you understand the secret of the Vedas. So from the practical point of view, this is the upside down tree. We are all upside down trees. Okay. Now, Vedavyasa, who wrote the Brahma Sutras, also, other things also, defines in the Brahma Sutra that truth, that reality, that Sat, that Purna which is in us and also outside us, as instead of Satchidananda, he uses the word Asti Bhadi Priya. Asti meaning that which is, Asti, Astitva, that which really is, Bhadi, that which is conscious, effulgent, and Priya, that which is dear to us. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Yajnavalkya describes to his wife, Maitri, when I am dear to you, not because of me and you, because of that which is in me. The mother loves the child not so much because of the child, but because of that which is in there in the child. And it is this Priya which we can little bit understand. Which is why people say, oh, Bhakti Marga is better. People say that because there is no such better, everything is different, plus and minuses for everything. But they say that because feeling is very important for us human beings. Whatever we intellectualize, feelings are very important. And Priya means dearness. Don't you think much of our life depends on how we are dear to somebody or somebody is dear to us? Priya. I think there's a song also, Priya, something. So, from ordinary love to divine love, Priya is an important word which defines the Supreme Being. Love. Kabir Das again said that a person without love in his heart, well, it includes her also, uh, is like the smashan, like the cremation ground. Only ashes are left. And he said, जैसे खाल लुहारी की सांस ले तो बिन प्राण, he said, like the bellows of a blacksmith, they also breathe, but there is no life in it. Mechanical, like what is that machine they fixed in your, when your heart stops breathing? It is not mechanical. So, therefore, two key words is happiness, bliss, permanency, and love. This is our true essence. And how do we get there? We can get there only when the distractions of the mind are lost. When we can remain quiet under all circumstances. When our life is not dependent on praise or blame, on joy or sorrow. We can live like that in this world. If you have joys in this world, surely there around the corner there will be some sorrow. Right? Look at life. If you have tons of money in your bank or in your safe, who comes knocking? Enforcement Directorate. Sorrow. Temporarily for us. It's the same with everything. Even to give birth to a new life, that you have to ask the women, how much does the mother suffer? The pain of delivery, that is the last. There is no mother who lets the child out laughing, ha 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 ha, here you go, ayo amma. So, pain, sorrow is part of his existence, even to create something new and let it go. Okay. Now, all sadhanas, the different ways of life, are meant to find that treasure in our hearts. Now, it is twofold. On the one hand, we should live in this world, we have to live in this world, and live in such a way that our minds are not ruffled by circumstances. In fact, if you learn to do that, you can also work better in this world. Because usually our life is like a roller coaster. When we are happy, little bit of happiness, then depression, and then up, then down. This is our life. So therefore the mind is naturally not stable. If you understand the fact that this is the nature of life, so don't be disturbed. It can happen. And when sorrow is there, somewhere around the corner there is a little bit of happiness lurking. It may come. It's only in sorrow that people begin to search the source of happiness actually. Right? The great Granth Sahib of the Sikhs is a beautiful thing there which says, दुख में सुमिरन सब करे, सुख में करे न कोई. You know, when there is pain and sorrow, then people start calling, God help me, and all that. Sukh, who cares? You may light an agarbatti and carry on with your life. So Don't sweep it under the rug and say, I don't want it. It's part of life. Face it. And then you'll see that sorrow becomes such a friend that it has lost its sting. Problem is we try to substitute it with little happinesses. Sometimes through food, sometimes through entertainment. We don't want to look at it, we're so frightened. Look at it and you you learn how to handle it. If you don't know how to handle it, how will you get rid of it? People come to me and say, I'm all these problems, save me. How? First time somebody said he had a beard, I thought he's saying shave me. So I don't know the process because. So, this is the thing, that you live in this world, face the sorrow and the joys together. What do you mean is, the Gita says, don't get too excited when happiness comes. There are people whose BP goes so high that they've got a heart attack also. When happiness comes, be calm, because it's not a permanent visitor. It goes off. So also sorrow. It will come. Long ago, when I was a young boy, I went to a Gita talk by Swami Chinmayananda. He said very beautifully, he said, when happiness comes, don't run away. Say, hello, varu irikyu, chai udiki kyo. Come, sit, eat, have a cup of tea and get out. Same with sorrow. Come, we are friends. Dukh to apna saathi hai. Then it loses its sting. Then the mind becomes calm and quiet and learns to live unruffled in the midst of circumstances. The other thing is, the Gita definition, Tulya Ninda Stutirmauni. The yogi is one for whom praise and blame are equal. Not equal, considers it as equal. Now the thing is, we live our life depending on our mind's mood, on what somebody thinks of us, or what somebody is telling about us, or what somebody says about us. Can we be free of this? Actually, it's very simple. Drop it and say, I don't care, I'm going to do what I have been doing in my life. So, you see how life is. You suppose I live on public opinion. I don't, I'm just saying. And then what happens? When somebody blames me, then I'm down. When somebody praises me, I'm up. Actually, it means nothing. Suppose you call me a fool. F-O-O-L. And I don't know English, what happens? Nothing. It's because I know English that, oh, fool means, no. But if I don't know English, I don't know what it is. I'm happy. I say, foolana. Now, suppose I knew only Hindi. Then you'll say fool, and I think, Arey, he's calling me a fool. Same word. Fool is a flower. Now I think I'm a flower. Great. So, don't give too much importance to that. If your wife calls you a fool, maybe she's in a bad mood. Don't worry about it. Rather way around also. So, can we live this life without getting caught up in this public opinion and image that we make? Can we start life without creating the bubble at all so that there's nothing to prick? It's only the bubble that is there that can be broken. If you have no bubble, what will anybody break? They can't break anything. So, If you lead a life that way, balancing things properly, which you have to do, don't say I have to do, and then seeing the importance of it, to lead a quiet life and try to find what is inside us, which is Purna. And unless the mind becomes quiet, you cannot find. The whole process of yoga, meditation, kriya is all meant to bring this about, but nothing else. So, now the question is, should I carry on with my life, or do I need to do something specially to attain it? I say yes. How? In this tumultuous daily life that we have, can we set apart at least 45 minutes every day where we do not allow the mind to wander hither and thither? And can it be tethered to the inner essence? Can it be pulled and kept there for some time? You will say, oh, but we are free. If you are free, don't worry. But you need to have this practice of sitting down for half an hour or 1 hour. People say, Ramana Maharshi said, who are you? I found who I am, so then I don't need to sit. Don't sit. But everybody is not Ramana Maharshi. Sit down. Have a practice every day, at least an hour or 45 minutes. And please don't say, I don't have time. Where you can sit, marshal your thoughts, look at yourself, go deep within, and find the layers of peace which are inside us by moving the distractions away. First, this thing should be in our mind. I have to. Because it's a tumultuous world. The moment I go out, again I'm caught in it. Through practice, one learns to be free of it. Abhyasa is very important. And constant practice. Nairantarya abhyasa, regular practice. Don't say it is mechanical. No, it's not. The entire life is mechanical. This is the only thing that is not so mechanical. Get to it. What you do about then during that period, that we'll discuss later, but definitely keep some time. Also, in this busy world of ours, business, this, that, travel, keep some time where you do nothing but reflect on these matters. Even if it is 10 days, 15 days, 5 days, get away from your scene. Go away to some quiet place near the sea or near the mountains or near the river or something nice and sit there. Reflect on what we discussed, reflect on what you have read, try to meditate. This is very important. This going away from your daily circumstances and spending some time quietly is very important until and unless you have reached that stage where you can be free at any point, in any place. Till then you need to train the mind. Well, when you're ready, you can be calm and quiet and peaceful in the midst of the marketplace, but not even in Bangladesh. But we need to sit down every day and try to work out how to keep our mind introvert, because it's usually extrovert. Now, for all this, you need to be serious and not be satisfied with anything else except that. That's very important to know. Not practice yoga for entertainment, for us, for yourself or for others, but be serious about trying to find out your source, to keep your mind away from distractions, to keep away from the conflicting mind. You want to do this, it wants to do something else. Pull it back. There's a silver lining to this, which is music. If you are interested in music, I'm talking about music which calms you, not the music which makes you. If you're interested in music, there need not even be a lyric. Even the sound of an instrument. You know the old story of this guy playing the flute in Vrindavan. This mischievous man, or not man, whatever. And the gopis completely forgot everything. He was not saying anything, just music. So music or sound is a good link between this and that, between the material and that which is not material. Sound is a very beautiful link. So if you are interested in music, you can effortlessly go into meditation by listening or playing. I'm saying this for people who say, no, we can't sit down. No, we cannot do japa. We can't do this. If you say, I don't even like music, then I have nothing to say. Then the soul is dead. So, this is one way. Because when you do something that you really love to do, naturally there are no distractions. So when I say I want to sit down to meditate, but I have distractions, my question is, when you sit in the bar, do you have any distractions? No. Because you give only that much importance. So if you think it is very important, and if it is important that I would give all my heart to this, then it works. This is the other thing that you have to understand. Now, having said this, to prove that we also go to the bar, don't be frightened. I'm going to tell you a story, and then we'll have question answers. It's 11 o'clock already. I'm sure many of you have heard of a great person called Swami Vivekananda. Probably he was the first yogi from India to go abroad, discovered by the West and so on. Well, it set a trend. But many people have not much idea about his teacher, who was Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who never went to England or US. He lived in a small little temple in Dakshineshwar near Calcutta. He was a village priest, no education whatsoever. I mean, so-called education. Our problem is there's too much of education. So, if anybody has gone to Calcutta, the main street which is just opposite the Oberoi Grand is the Esplanade. In those days, Esplanade was not such a busy place. And one day, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was going on a horse buggy towards Dakshineshwar. He had gone somewhere and he was passing Esplanade. And there were a couple of people with him. Suddenly he looked out of the buggy. And on the footpath and the pavement in Esplanade, he saw a man completely drunk. He couldn't, literally he couldn't walk. He was kind of weaving around the footpath. It means if you can't walk straight, then how do you go? In Malayalam we have a beautiful Adichi Pambai. He was going completely tight. And then He looked out and he said, "Stop." So they stopped the buggy. He ran out. He went and held the man in an embrace, tightly. And he said, "Hey, brother, you are a drunk. I'm also drunk. I'm also drunk. You're also drunk. We are brothers." And he started hugging him and dancing with him. So people said, "Please, Thakur, come back." So he said, "No, no, no, I found my brother." So finally, they pulled him out and brought him inside and took him away. And throughout he was complaining, "Oh, you took me away from this fellow." So, and then many years later, after Swami Vivekananda went abroad and came back, he got some dollars and pounds. So they built the Belumat, the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Mission. And one day when he was meditating inside the shrine, he heard some sound of somebody loudly shouting something outside. So he opened the shrine room and came out. And he saw a man wearing just a white, I don't know what you call it in English, kaupin. Konam. Wearing a kaupin and standing there with matted hair and with a bright shining face. And he was looking inside the Garbhagriha, the shrine. Now, if you go now to the shrine in Belumat, you see an image of Ramakrishna made of white marble sitting there. Those days it was not yet made. There was a picture, a photograph. So when he saw Swamiji come out, he asked him, "Do you belong to this place?" He said, "Yes." "You see that man in that picture there?" He said, "Yes." "Can I go inside and hug that picture?" Swamiji said, "No." He said, "We don't allow anybody inside the shrine, and then to hug the picture, this is not allowed." "But why do you want to do it?" He said, "Oh, you don't know, you probably were not there at that time. This happened many years ago. I was one day fully drunk. I was an alcoholic. From morning, I was drunk. I used to be. And one day I was drunk and then I was just weaving through Esplanade when a horse buggy came and stopped. Who came out? This man. He came out. And then he came running to me. And he hugged me. And he said, "Hey, we are brothers. You're drunk. I'm also drunk. We are fully intoxicated." And he wouldn't let go of me. I was perplexed. I didn't know what was going on. They pulled him out and took him away. Swamiji was listening, and then he said, "You know what happened after that? I have never been sober, but I have never touched alcohol." He said, "After that, I have never had alcohol, not a drop, but I am always drunk. Fully drunk. There's a joy in me I can't explain to you. It's just this man hugging me. Please, no hugs. Let's be let's be practical." So, no, for me it's better to say these things. So, that is what we enjoy. When you're enjoying it, you carry on with life. And I'm saying that you can also do it. बार 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 में जाने की कोई जरूरत नहीं, एक बार हो जाए. So that source of that wine is in us. Learn to drink. A great Sufi, I don't know, there are many people who know Hindi, Urdu here, I'm sure. Hindi, Urdu, Hindi. When a great Sufi once said, अकल के मदरसे से उठ, get up from the school of intellect, of the intellect. इश्क के मैख़दे में आ, come to this tavern of ishq. You know, I don't know how to translate ishq. No. Love in ecstasy. इश्क के मैख़दे में आ, जामे फना वो बेखुदी अब तो पिया. Now that you have drunk the wine, which annihilates the ego completely, jo ho, so whatever happens, let it happen. Remain in happiness. So this is what I want to share. Where is the bottle? Yeah? I know when I use this example, many people pep up. I don't know why. Especially in a hot day. Huh? So anyway, this is what it is. So we have come here to take part in that. In the Jame Fana.